Today, guys, we're talking about, are you too old to be a helicopter pilot? That's a question I get all the time, and it's a really, really tough answer to give. We get emails on a regular basis from people of all ages, and they're asking us the same question, am I too old to be a helicopter pilot? And sometimes I just have to be brutally honest and say, unfortunately, yes, you are too old to be a helicopter pilot. What does that actually mean? I'm going to break that down today. I'm going to talk about what the industry is looking for, what ages are sort of the prime ages to become a pilot for the first time, and what I would think would be getting to a higher age bracket, and then what I think would be sort of unattainable to become a helicopter pilot and actually work commercially in the industry. Okay, so let's first talk about sort of the ultimate age demographic. Actually, before that, I want to back up and I just want to talk a little bit about the helicopter industry and what it means to be a new helicopter pilot. Okay, so you graduate helicopter school. You go out there and you're going to become what's called a ground crew, most likely, for the first probably year to 2 years of your career, okay? What does that mean? You're going to be doing odd jobs, okay? So anything that the company needs doing, you're going to be doing those things. Sometimes it's working in the shop with the engineers, helping out with maintenance and things like that. Sometimes you could be running to get parts. Sometimes you could just be working around the hangar, doing odd jobs, cleaning, sweeping floors, cleaning bathrooms, just any random jobs that need doing. Sometimes it's fueling helicopters when they come in and out from their flights, or loading and unloading passengers or cargo, things like that. Sometimes it's driving a fuel truck to remote locations and fueling helicopters in remote locations. It really could be anything. I've heard it all. People have built decks for the owner's private house. It just... The spectrum is very wide of the type of jobs that you could be doing, but it really is just anything that company needs doing, getting done, you're going to be the one to do it. And what they're trying to do is, I've talked about this before, is they're trying to build some repertoire and trust with you. They want to know who you are, what you're like as a true person, what your personality's like, how you work, what your responsibility level is, all these types of things. They're really trying to flesh that out and get some experience with you. And once they know you well enough, there's two factors to this. Once they know you well enough, they personally can trust you enough to say, okay, I'm going to give you $1 million helicopter, go and fly this helicopter. The other side of it is insurance, and insurance a lot of the time says, if you trust the person, then we're going to trust them as well. So they'll put the onus on the company and they'll say, we're going to let you decide how many hours this person needs to have to do certain jobs. Some jobs have actual hour requirements, but a lot of them are dictated by the company. And so the insurance company says, if you trust this person, we're going to trust them as well. We're going to let you make the decision on whether or not you think this person can fly for this specific job. And so there has to be a huge level of trust put there. And that's why there needs to be this ground crew time before you're actually going to start flying the helicopter. Like I say, between 1 and 2 years is kind of the average. And then you'll start flying. You'll do odd job flying things. And then you'll slowly build your way up. And I always tell everybody it's a 5-year goal. From the time you start your helicopter school to the time that you are a desirable pilot, a very employable pilot, breaking that 1,000-hour mark or maybe more. Usually it's about a 5-year goal, okay? 1 to 2 years on the ground, another 3 years or so of building time and experience to the level where you have broken that 1,000-hour mark. Now the insurance companies will insure you for most jobs, and you're a very desirable pilot at that point, okay? So that's quite a bit of time, all right? Let's talk about the ultimate sort of age demographic that a company is going to be looking for, a chief pilot is going to be looking for. I think that personally is around 25 to 35 years old. That's a sweet spot. There's a couple of reasons for that. If you're younger than that, it doesn't mean that you can't get a job. We've seen lots of young people get jobs that are younger than 25. But a company is looking for somebody who is really useful to them. The jobs that I described, sometimes it's carpentry jobs, sometimes it's technical mechanical type things, operating machinery. There's a variety of things, and so the company is looking for somebody who's going to be very useful to them. The more life experience you have, the more useful you are to that company. Okay, so if you're 18 or 19. You're fresh and you're ready to go and you're eager and excited, but there's a lot of life to live in front of you. And so if you've done a couple of things first, if you had a few more extra jobs or this and that, you're going to have a little more life experience, maybe a little bit more to offer that company. Okay, all the way through to about 35, I would say, is the sweet spot where you've maybe done a job or a career for a while, and now you're really shifting gears. You've been saving your money. You're ready for this. You've had this passion for a long time, and now you're going to go do it, and you're ready to make that transition to the industry. That's exactly what the industry is looking for. Okay. Once you start getting over 35, let's talk about 35 to 45 will be kind of the next bracket. And that's starting to get onto the higher side. You're 36, you're 37. Okay, that's fine, right? But it's going to really start playing a lot into personality and what you're like. As you start rounding your 40s and into 45, the company is going to start looking at that as a negative. And the reason why is there's a few reasons. And I've alluded to this in other videos before, but I want to take this video to sort of dedicate and talk about it specifically. Okay, here's the theories. And some of them are true and some of them are not true, okay? In this mid-age bracket. If you've lived that much life, so you're 45, you've maybe spent 20 years already in the working field, and typically, you've done something long enough to sort of be at the top of your field. You could have been a doctor. You could have gone to 10 years of school. You could have been working as a doctor for 10 years or more. And even longer than that. And you could be working, for 15 years even. And so you're at the top of your field. You expect a lot at that spot. And also from a wage point of view, you expect a lot as well, right? A doctor that's been working for 15 years is going to have a very high pay bracket, okay? Somebody who's been working in the oil and gas field, they've had a lot of experience, they've worked their way up, they've gotten their pay raises and everything, they've got a lot of experience, and now they are sort of at the prime of their career, and for them to step back down is going to be a very difficult thing, okay? So it doesn't matter what you've done, but if you've done something for an extended amount of time, typically you've worked your way up into sort of the top bracket of that career, that industry, or you're on your way there anyways. And so you're expecting a lot. As a person, you're expecting a lot. And even if you tell me that you're not, subconsciously you are, okay? Your lifestyle is ingrained and expecting a certain pay scale and a certain type of respect and so forth, okay? Now, as a ground crew, you guys are going to be getting minimum wage. It's very little money that you're making. I always tell everybody expect $25,000 to $35,000 a year. Sometimes, your expenses are paid. They'll have a place for you to live and some food to eat and stuff like that. So, it's not poverty, but it's enough to get by, really. That's what it is to start with. And the reality is that's all companies can afford. It's not that they want to pay you, a little bit amount of money or something, but until you're really useful to them in the sense of you're actually generating real income for that company, it's hard for them to pay you a big wage. I know this as an operator. We're a flight school and a commercial operations, and I've seen this. We've started people off from scratch, and it's really hard for us to pay them a really great wage if they're not contributing in a financial way. Yes, there's lots of help that they're contributing, but it's not really bringing in a revenue stream, okay? So that's one aspect of it. There's a financial aspect of it. So you have to be prepared to go from, I'm just going to use rough numbers, go from $100,000 a year down to $30,000 or $35,000 a year. That's a big adjustment, and it's really hard for a commercial operator, a chief pilot, to look a 45-year-old in the eye that they know is making $100,000 a year and say, you know what, I'm going to get you scrubbing floors and cleaning toilets and running and grabbing parts and things like that, and you're going to make, $30,000 a year. It's tough, right? And just from a psychological point of view, it is tough. And then the other side of it is the feeling of authority. If you've built yourself up to a place where you're sort of at the top of your field, it is hard. I'm gonna talk about this in a second. I'll get back to this, but it is very hard to jump back out of that and then be the very, very, very bottom of the totem pole where you're answering to the bosses and they're saying, I need this done. Can you go sweep the floors? I need you to go clean this and whatever. It's hard to get back to that state and just be willing to do those types of jobs. And then on the flip side, because of the fact that you have all this experience, you're going to constantly be saying, oh, I think something should be done this way, or I think it should be done this way, or whatever. That's great sometimes, but the company has very specific ways that they do things, reasons why they do them. And so if somebody new is coming in and just telling them, oh, no, I don't want to do it this way, I think it should be done this way, or whatever, that can be very difficult. It rubs against the grain, and a lot of companies don't really like that, okay? Whether the things that I'm saying are valid or not is not the case. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the reality, okay? So whether or not these things should be the way that they are, I'm not getting into that. I'm getting into more of the specifics of the way that it actually is out there in the industry, okay? That's kind of the main psychological side of it. So from an employer's point of view, it makes it difficult to want to hire somebody of that age bracket and be able to tell them, you know what, I need this done, whatever, from both sides. Now, I fully get it that flying helicopters is a passion project, okay? So this is where now I'm starting to transition from that mid-age group, the 40 to 45, up into the 50s and up into even the 60s. And flying helicopters is a passion project for sure. I had a guy stop by just the other day, and it was great to meet you. And he was the ultimate example. I know he's watching this video, and so he was the ultimate example of a person that has had a missed opportunity in his life. He never got the chance to get his helicopter license when he was young, and I get this story again and again from different people where they tell me, you know what, I wish I would have done this when I was younger, right? You know, they get to the middle age or the end of their career and they say, you know what, I have one regret. If I could do anything different, I would have been a helicopter pilot. Okay. That is true. It's a passion project. People want to do this with the deepest burning of their desire, the deepest burning of their heart. But that burning desire, when I get these people talking to me and saying, I will do anything. I totally get what you're saying, Misha. I understand that I'm going to go from 100 grand to 30 grand. I get I'm going to have to scrub toilets. I get all that stuff. I don't really care. I just want to do it because all I care about, all I dream about all the time is flying helicopters, okay? I get it. I understand that. But the things that I said are still valid and true. The company is still going to look at things the way that I just described them, okay? Now, as you get into the higher age bracket, you start breaking your 50s, you're into mid-50s, late 50s, even early 60s, it financially becomes unviable, okay? And here's the reality of it, because we've been getting emails recently, all the time, really, from people that are at the end scale or the end side of their career. Now, don't get me wrong, you guys. I am the first believer in if you are passionate about something, go for it. You know, I know people that are 70 and they're changing careers and starting a new career. I totally get that, okay? The helicopter industry might not be the one for that, though, okay? And here's the reason why. When you get into that age demographic, tack on 5 years to any age that you are, okay? So let's just use 57, for example, okay? Tack on 5 years to that, you're 62, all right? What I mean by that is when you go to helicopter school and you're 57, you're feeling great, you know, you eat healthy, you exercise all the time, you feel like you're 35, that's fantastic, right? But you're going to still spend those same 5 years that the 25-year-old has to spend to get to a position where you're a really employable pilot, okay? And so tack on those 5 years, you're now 62 years old. A company has invested a lot of time and money and effort and so forth into you. Trust me, I'm the first one to know this. We've done this several times, okay? We've dumped passion and money and time and everything into employees, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot of the company. They sacrifice a lot to do this. And after it's all said and done, they want a product. They want a person that is going to really pay dividends to that company, right? They've invested so much that they hope they've created an amazing pilot that's going to fly for them for hopefully a bunch of years and treat them well and bring more customers in and bring revenue back into the company to replace everything that they've output for that person, okay? You're 62 years old, now you're 65, are you keeping your medical? It starts getting to a point where, you're going to have to at some point stop flying. And there's people that are 68, 70, but, from a health point of view, are you able to keep your medical at that point? A lot of times 65 is sort of the higher end of where you're going to be flying as a career. So, that company's looking at that age and they're saying, by the time we get everything going and we've invested, 50 grand into this person with endorsements and whatever, they've got like 3 years left and they're out of here. And so that's a hard position for a company to be in, okay? I really hope you guys understand this. I fully agree though. I understand the shoes that you're in. If it's a passion project, figure out a way to maybe make it happen in a way that's not going to break the bank and is still going to give you that same sort of reward. Okay, so what's the alternative? People say, I've got the 60 grand, I'm ready to go. I'm going to dedicate 5 years of my life and I'm going to do that. Okay, that's cool. You're making 100 grand a year, right? You're going to go down to 30, 35, 40 as it sort of builds up, right? So you're sacrificing, let's call it easy, 100 grand of wages, sacrificing 100 grand, okay? Plus 60 grand for helicopter school. So that's 160 grand. Let me just do some math here. So 160 grand divided by 575 bucks an hour is 278 hours, okay? Divide that by, let's call it 30 hours a year, okay, is 9 years. What I mean by that is if this is your passion, if this is really what you want to do, find somebody that you can go flying for 30 hours a year with. Go to a flight school, find somebody and you pay them 575 bucks an hour. That's the rate for the Cabri, right? And you fulfill that dream that you've really wanted to fulfill. You go flying. 30 hours a year is actually a lot for a private pilot. And you have that passion, right? And you can still keep doing your day job. You can still keep making your wage and all the rest of it. But for the next 9 years, which is a lot of time, you can be spending that money and fulfilling that dream without having to become a commercial helicopter pilot, give up your current job, your life, uproot your family, move them to a new spot, all these things, right? So if I'm talking to you and you're in the older age demographic, and I'm please don't get me wrong by saying you're old, but if you're above the 45 age bracket, maybe that's something that you want to be considering, okay? It's going to be very difficult if you're over the age of 45 and you're pushing 50 for you to get a helicopter job in the industry. That's just the plain reality of it. I can't say it any other way. I have to be super blunt about it. So I hope that makes sense, guys. There are always alternatives. I know that the passion is deep, and so find an alternative that's going to work for you, that's going to scratch that itch that you have to fly helicopters. And and that's basically a summary of this video. Is don't let me or anything that I've said right now stop you from your passion, from your dream, but maybe reevaluate what the reality is and how you can still make it happen, but do it in a practical way that's going to be the most beneficial for you and your family, okay? If this has made sense, please give this video a thumbs up. It does me such a big favor when you guys do these simple things. Thumbs up, put some comments below, where you're at in life, if you've thought about changing careers, if you've changed careers recently, if you're thinking about becoming a helicopter pilot and you're in that older age demographic, I want to hear from you guys. Give me your guys' feedback. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel already, please do so. Hit the notification bell. That way you'll know when I'm posting a new video. And that's it for me, you guys. I'm going to talk to you on the next one. See ya.